Well, welcome everybody. We are back on episode 17 for the Apps and Asphalt podcast. We actually haven't done both of us in a couple weeks, so
yeah, it's been a little while.
Yeah, we were just.
How you been, bro?
Good. I've been good, man.
You good?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
I haven't seen you for a while.
I know. We just get mixed up, and we got a lot going on.
Yeah.
But what we wanted to talk about today was something that Zach just got off the phone dealing with a customer, but we want to talk about money. Oh, you ready to do it?
No.
You remember The Apprentice? When Trump had his show back in the day, it was called The Apprentice.
Yeah.
That was the opening song to it.
Really?
Yeah. So that's where I got it from.
There was a song by Eddie Money called I Want Money. Lots and lots of money. Bro,
well,
I don't know,
that relates.
Go round.
It does. It really does. But as we digress, money is a huge deal, especially, all the time, but this time of year for our kind of business when we're probably at the lowest of the low right before season, gets started. And, we deal with issues from still not being able to collect from jobs we finished last year or 2 years ago.
Yep.
To having to allocate funds to purchase new equipment, to pay for payroll, keep guys still on, keep our sales guys going.
Yep. There's a cost of business that you get to in life where you have to pretty much have attorneys on hand all the time, which is a whole nother realm of money aspects.
Yep.
So, money is an interesting thing. They say it'll make you more of who you are, or not. I think there's a book that we were reading by Alex Hermosi, and he's like, people who say money is the root of all evil haven't had enough to be able to help people.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the thing about you. If you guys don't know Zach, your boy likes to spend some money, but you are also one of the most generous people when it comes to that with, paying everybody, the staff well. You'll go and pay for nice dinners for everybody. Go to the club, you buy buy the table for everybody, buy the drinks. So that's something about you, but you do it because you want everyone to have a good time, but you're also just being generous because you realize, the fruits of your labor you've been able to give and pass on to other people. So that's what not a lot of people know about you. But
thanks, man.
Agreed, it does make you more of who you are, and this has allowed you to step into who you are, and you're just a generous dude.
Thanks, man.
So
I appreciate
welcome.
it. I appreciate it. I feel like you're given these gifts, definitely from God, opportunities, and you need to be able to place them in the right areas. Otherwise, the fruits will stop coming at some point or another. I don't always make the right decisions with money, and I think that's part of what we want to kind of talk about is you learn from those mistakes. You have to learn from the mistakes of money and where you're placing it, and the motion that it creates for people around you. Otherwise, it can stop coming, and it will get a lot harder.
Yes, it can.
For sure.
And this podcast is probably going to be mostly you talking because you have a ton of experience with this and learning lessons of it, especially when it comes to money on the business side, which I want to get into to help some of our other guys. A little bit about our paving company is we do things different. We don't bill net 30. We require a deposit up front and then payment upon completion. And I think we're one of, the only contract. I don't know if we're one of the only, but there's not many contractors that do that. And we know this because a lot of companies give us some pushback when we first start working with them. Now our regular customers are used to that. But why did you guys decide to start that model back in the day?
So if you're going to scale a business, it takes cash flow to scale a business. Labor is expensive nowadays. Fuel's expensive. Everything you're doing is costing money. And, you know, to put it simply, if you want a good company, you're going to need to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to provide a level of service, but you're going to have to pay for it. And you're going to have to make an investment up front with us. Number one, I want to make sure that you guys are in this with us as well. So it's a partnership when we sign those contracts together. And I want to make sure that you guys are equally as invested as we're about to invest into the project. Because even half of a project doesn't cover the burden of the project when we're talking about the margins that we're working off of in our industry. So it's definitely it's a olive branch towards the right direction, but then it's like the payment aspect afterwards is really important as well too, you know?
Yeah. And I know just from, we still deal with this is, you know, we get a signed contract that comes in, especially early on in the year, because, you know, you can have a good backlog, but you still want to get jobs done. You still want to get jobs in as soon as possible. So we've ran into situations in the past to where, all right, we get a signed contract that comes in. The guys, they want to get it done like within the next couple of weeks, which we have, you know, a day open to where we can go and squeeze that in. But we send them our 50% deposit invoice, and we fail to collect that before, you know, the job starts. And so now not only do we have, you know, the final invoice once we complete it, but we also have the deposit invoice, so it gets a little messy. So what we're trying to change up now is being sticklers with our invoicing and saying, hey, we don't schedule your job until we have a check in the bank from you for the deposit that you signed upon.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's the reason why. I mean, we do work quite a bit with contractors ourselves. We'll get stuff done out in our yard. We're doing, you know, stuff at our homes or whatever. And every single one of those guys understand that there's money up front that needs to go out on their expenses, and we're willing to supply it. And on the back end, we want to make sure that it's happening for us as well. But if you're not able to pay an upfront deposit, it shows that, okay, what's the deal? There's got to be something. And then, you know, sometimes there's red tape with like corporate stuff that you're not able to collect that all the time. And so at least if we know that up front, we can do like a background credit check. So we know we've been able to call bank references, a few other creditors, and know that, okay, these guys pay and they pay quickly. It's just a matter of like their corporate policy is they don't do this, which is fine.
Yep.
But, you know, we certainly want to get our money collected as quickly as possible, because everything you're doing from a business aspect is an investment towards the future. And if you are making deals, cutting deals on your company's behalf, they're essentially giving you money to gamble with, providing that the estimate or proposal that you are suggesting goes completely as planned.
Yeah.
And you make the profit that you are, you know, aiming towards. And so
you said that on a couple episodes ago, or like one of our first ones, that it's an investment, but even the gamble, like you gamble on the reliability of our estimators being accurate, because that's all it is. So you got to knowing your costs, which is another thing we talk about. You know, your success of your project all starts from the initial estimate. So really the gamble is more on these guys estimating these jobs than it is going and producing it.
Exactly.
Because you can shoot yourself right in the foot from the very start.
You've got to train your team to understand what they're bidding, to understand that they're not just bidding to go get a job because they need a commission, but they're taking your money and they're going and gambling with it based on like what they think in their head is going to go as planned. And so all the more reason why you need to bring execution from like what you're thinking you need to do on a job site all the way to the crews. You know, SpotOnSite's a great tool for something like that.
Right?
Hey,
wink.
You know, not a plug, but a plug. But
what do you think is the biggest reason why contractors have such a hard time collecting money from their clients?
I think, number one, right off the bat, people are afraid to make the tough calls. Nobody wants to call and ask for money, but it's all about how you word it, and it's all about how you are facilitating the message to these people. you don't need to do it in a way that makes you seem like you're it's gonna make
Do or die,
do or die, yeah. But you do need to present it in a form and a fashion that is like, hey, this is just the fact of the matter. And I still don't mind making the tough calls at times. I think our staff has gotten so much better about it, because the tough calls are where the money is. And to be honest with you, those are also options for an additional sale. But I think they have a hard time collecting money because they don't like making the tough calls, and they don't know how to deliver the message accurately.
Give us like a role play kind of what you would say to a customer who hasn't paid, they're 120 days late from their payment. How do you approach it so these guys can use it? Because you're great with that.
Yeah, so depending on if they're a return client or if they are a new client, kind of deters like what direction we're going to go with it. But I usually say, hey, such and such, this is Zach. I'm the CEO of National Pavement Partners. It's been brought to my attention that you guys are overextended 120 plus days. We hear that you guys are a great company. Always extend something that lets them know you think highly of them. You've thought highly of them. I don't know how this has slipped past you for this long. We need to get payment expedited immediately to avoid litigation in the future, or a lien, or whatever it is. Just say, if you have somebody that vouched for them, or if it was them personally, you make sure you go back to that conversation and reference it. This is the type of business that we are. We represent these core values, and we want to do business with companies that have the same core values that we do. Let us know when we can expect payment. Almost every single time that works.
Yeah.
Like, every time. Like I mean, you might have to get to some negotiations if it's a sticky project, but if you let them know that, hey, initially we thought of you as this type of company, this type of person, you guys haven't followed through with what we displayed in contractual terms. What happened?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't what we discussed. It usually makes the person think like, oh shit, they're gonna lose trust in me if they haven't lost it already, and like, this is their chance to earn the trust back, and then that usually does a trick.
100%. Yeah, and another thing that we've implemented is, so, let's say a job goes through, we have punch list items. The biggest pain in the ass out there. Small stuff, whatever it is, HOAs.
They kill construction industries.
Yes.
I mean, kill them.
Yep. Small punch list items is because the whole goal, what you want to do, just like your dad said, I don't want to be back here fixing this crack. I want to be on another job.
Yes.
Having to waste time and effort and money going back to fix small detail mistakes, or even stuff that sometimes our sales team, including myself, I've been too lenient on the demands they requested for go backs.
Yep.
And again, it's a learning lesson. But what we've done is we say, okay, sure, we have these items documented. We need to go back and touch this up, do whatever. But you are still contractually required to pay the remainder less 10%. You can hang on to the 10%, but we still need the additional 40, if you will.
Yep. If you guys don't have it in your payment terms and conditions, put retainage as no more than 10%. We've actually moved it to 5% this year.
Okay.
And we try to sneak that into the contract. They can breeze through the terms and conditions if they want to, but it's in there, and it's something that is been signed by the client most of the times, even if it's an exhibit in their contract that will allow you to say, hey, and then stipulate what punch list items are. Hey, we missed a crack over here. Hey, depending on what type of construction you're in that can easily be overlooked, is it worth them holding this much money because a couple of stripes are wrong and they were supposed to have a handicap there and there isn't one? Like, it doesn't make sense for them to hold $90,000 on a project because the striping is inaccurate. No, like, you can hold 5% of this project until the striping is corrected. But in the meantime, everything else is ticking. We've got bills that need to be paid. We've had to pay our labor. There's everything else that
materials.
Yep.
Materials.
Materials. So So yeah,
that's a big pain. But yeah, like you said, that will kill a lot of businesses is all the go backs. And then unfortunately, I believe that a lot of these smaller companies get so many of these go backs that they have to do that they just stop responding, which leads to, poor reputation for their company, which I think there's been enough of those situations that have happened that's why construction is such a black eye. Is because there's small go backs and the contractor's like, fuck that, I want to be back doing fixing a couple of pieces of tile in the shower. I need to be on another job making money. And I think it's just a domino effect.
Dude, you're 100% right. And a lot of them are like owner operators or smaller companies that are like, man, I can't even answer this phone. I'm on a new job over here trying to get this collected. Well, listen, you can only kick the can down the road for so long before you're kicking yourself in the ass, because the longer you wait on those type of things, the harder they are to get collected later on. The worse you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're essentially saying like, I'm going to play the bank a little bit longer on this job, and I'm going to help these guys even more, because those things don't go away.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge problem in construction in general, and that's why we're at where we're at.
You're right.
So I should have brought that up in my presentation last time.
No,
that's good to bring. We'll take that mental notes.
Sure.
One thing you've taught me, and you're a big proponent of it, is leveraging credit or leveraging outside debt.
Yeah.
Which there's good debt and bad debt, obviously. There's bad debt is the consumer debt. You go and buy some Gucci shoes and throw it on a credit card. That's bad debt.
I don't know what that's like. Just kidding.
He's done a little bit of both. But talk about leveraging debt and credit for your business, especially construction business, because sometimes we need credit for financing new pieces of equipment or this building or like some of the loans and stuff you've gotten into. What are some like do's and don'ts that you've learned?
Yeah, so that's a great question, dude.
Thank you, man.
Great question. The do's and don'ts. I always try to. I just got off a phone with a guy this morning. He's like, well, what do you want the payment terms to be? And I'm like, long, and just so you know, I probably won't even pay it off. Like, we'll probably get into something else before this even happens. But I'm always trying to keep cash in the bank. Like, cash is king wherever you're at. It keeps you maneuverable, keeps you operable. I love and respect people who run their business in a different way. I just don't think that you can run it fast that way. I think if you want speed, you need to leverage other people's money, including the bank. If you guys don't have relationships with banks, you need to get into a local bank in the area that you're in and go meet the CEO or the president or the vice president, and you need to get them you need to talk to them ahead of time, like, hey, I'm thinking this, and it's not going to be an overnight thing, but you're planting a seed for a year down the road that gives you and your business an opportunity to grow and have more maneuverability from a cash flow standpoint. But like, a line of credit is a must. When we're buying equipment, yeah, it's nice to buy stuff cash. I just bought a vehicle cash, and it was nice to do it, but at the same time, I'm like, gosh damn it. Like, I wish I would have just financed it. Like, it's nice to have that cash,
keep it.
It's good to have. It's good to have. So there's other types of loans that you can get into that are higher interest, that are privately funded, and we've had to use those in early days to get to the next level. Just know that you need to make sure that in those terms with those private loans, because the interest is so high, that you have an opportunity to buy out of that loan a year down the road. So you might finance it at a very high rate. Fine, it'll bridge the gap in the meantime, but make sure you get into a bank and tell them like, hey, a year from now, what do I need to have so I can refi out of this and have some really good terms around this? And I think those are good things to consider.
Let's think of like exit plans with the loans too.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
And before we continue, I want to make a disclaimer. I don't know if we have to do that. We are not financial advisors.
We're not.
Don't have to trust us with our money advice. We're simply given what we do and lessons learned. So I just want to put that in. So we take a little quick interruption. Now we're back.
No, you're right. You're right.
I totally forget about doing that, but
I do too. Like,
I don't know if you have to, but I think you have to kind of.
for sure. I think it's smart of us to. It's all subjective opinion, you know, unless you are a financial advisor. It's like,
Right.
this is what works for me, guys. So,
Yeah. They're like, you guys are ass backwards on all of this.
pretty much.
Anyways, what you said back before, leveraging other people's money. That is like investing 101. So one of the avenues we want to get into is real estate.
Yes.
You know, multifamily real estate. All these guys that buy these huge multifamily properties are leveraging other people's money. You know,
Yes.
Cardone, he only puts down 20% and then he leverages the rest of it from the bank. But there's a point where you can over leverage yourself to where you put not enough down versus over leverage or under leverage yourself versus over leveraging yourself. And there's points that you can actually put yourself in a lot of trouble, which I feel like some of these people on these houses, you know, some of these people are stretching themselves too far in the past couple of years when the house is going through the roof and wages haven't increased. So we might see here soon these loans really put people in a bad spot because they over leverage themselves.
Yep.
But don't be afraid using other people's money, especially like the bank's money, because that's all a bank is anyways. A bank takes your money and goes whoop and passes it right out to go fund something that's going to make them X times whatever you put in. Banks don't even keep in, it's not even dollar for dollar. I think I can't even remember the percentage. I think it's like 10% of whatever the number says that the bank has, they only keep in cash.
Yep.
Don't correct, or someone can correct me on that, but I know it's not dollar for dollar that they have in cash as they
Right.
do, as they show on like a ledger or whatever.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if banks are doing that, figure out a way you can do that for your business, even your personal life if you want to get into investing.
Mm-hmm.
We're both big on it takes money to make money.
Yeah.
But there's also time, it's not like the case for everything. You can use other people's money. Like we could have easily for SpotOnSite went and sought out a huge investment, got drowned out in equity, 20-30%, and got a whole bunch of cash. But we chose to hang on because we want to keep the in money, the pot as big as possible whenever we do want to exit.
Yep.
So we chose to hang on to that equity stake and just bootstrap it pretty much.
Yep. It's all you got to have a plan for a little, with everything, and you got to look at not just what's temporary satisfaction, but what does 6 months, a year down the road look like as you're getting into these type of things, and what is you're getting in, but you're getting out at some point. So it's like, you're buying smart, you're buying with a purpose behind it, and putting money in, with thought behind it, not just because. And I've done that. I have done that. Like we have done that ourselves. We've, got into 2 big brand new mills. Not a smart decision. We grew from 30 employees to 60 within a week. And it got crazy. It's so hard to manage. It's not just throw money at the situation. It's you got to be calculated with it and stuff. So if you guys find yourself in those positions, sometimes it's easier to just take a step back and look at the whole thing, what's working, what's not working, what can you control, get back to a place where it's able to be controlled again.
Yep. And it's good to move with speed, but sometimes, we've moved too fast.
Yes.
Too much speed.
Too much
to where you just say yes too quick and then you go on with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a huge opportunity for people to kind of learn, especially businesses, kind of learn how to manage, and especially the owner operators, man. They got so many other things. Like when you're actually running a company as an owner operator, you're really focused on selling jobs and performing jobs. Mm-hmm. That's kind of your majority of your day, majority of your focus. So what gets put on the back burner is looking back, stopping and saying, okay, out of all these jobs we sold and produced, how much money did I actually make? It's not revenue that's the important one. It's the P, the profit at the bottom.
Yep.
So what are some ways that you've got creative, because you're great at skinning the cat as well? And yeah, I'm hyping Zach up all day because you have tons of good lessons on this, dude.
My boy, man.
I'm telling you,
appreciate
bro.
it.
What are ways that you skin the cat whenever a contract gets signed to try to make up a couple additional points before projects have even started?
Yep. I appreciate it. Right off the bat, I look at material. Is there a negotiating room on material? And if there is, what does that look like? Maybe it's paying the supplier quickly. If you guys already have like an account open with them, maybe it is, asking for a favor, knowing that you're going to give them another project in the future. But figuring out where you can negotiate on material is number one, like right off the bat. Number two is figuring out if you have dump fees associated, all these different miscellaneous fees that can kind of like drown a project out, that worst case scenario, if we need to pay these, it's like, okay, where can we dump? Call, like for us, if we're on a project, I'm gonna give you guys some game on this one, even probably some of my competitors, but like if we're out in a rural area and we're milling out a parking lot, okay, I don't want to make a round trip haul time all the way down to back to the plant, like where else? So, go stake out on a farmer's land, go look and see who's close by that you can dump, research all avenues. When you're young and you're a new company, you're fresh in business, you don't have a choice but to make every job as profitable as you possibly can and soak every bit of juice out of this thing. So if you had 10 man hours, or 10 crew hours for a job, like how do we get it done in 6? All the different things that go along with it, even down to like figuring out truckers, like, hey, you guys, I can't afford to lose money on this project through trucking. So here's what I can do. Maybe I'll pay you up front on this, knowing that I'm going to solidify our trucking value and we don't bust on it. So it's getting creative and figuring out ways to like bulletproof your project so you don't lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've even like material negotiations, I think you touched on that. But we've leveraged, we've gotten multiple bids from different material suppliers and have leveraged the numbers just to say, hey, Ag can do this, but Martin Marietta, can you do this? It's not to say one's better than the other, to, twist each other, turn each other against each other. But we, at the end of the day, as the contractors who are their customers, need to make the most amount of margin, and sometimes that's what we got to do.
Hey man, like you take those guys for example, they're doing it right already. They've been doing it right for years, decades, sometimes decades on decades. They know their formula for success in business and what their cost is. They've got that down. They've had it down for a long time, which is why they're in business. So if there's any room to squeeze out, and ask for some help on it, usually those guys are the ones that can do it. And, start there. It's a good place to start.
Very
usually
simple.
The bulk of your project and where a lot of the money is coming from, and to begin with, or at least from a cost perspective. So
yeah,
was driving.
Just kind of a high level view. We won't go into the nitty gritty, but from a high level view, for a company who wants to start figuring out what their actual costs are, where do you start? Do you start figuring out what your equipment costs, figure out your labor costs?
All of that is super important. Labor cost and equipment cost almost go hand in hand. And there's costs that are associated with labor costs and equipment costs that people don't think about. And so, I'll leave it with, you need to start considering, okay, labor, what is your actual labor and what's the burden to it? What's included in a burden? What's, how are you putting these things into categories and how are they paying themselves back out? So I would start with your actual cost of doing business. A simple thing that people are forgetting is taxes on materials. I see it all the time. Like, there's no way, like, especially on large jobs. I mean, like, thousands of dollars in taxes can be overlooked, and you're not making what you think you're making. So,
with the cost factored in, yeah, man. I mean, I think, what's our tax rates like?
8.5%.
Yeah, so
and it changes from Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs to Phoenix. It's all like, like little bit, a percent here or there shifts you quite a bit, especially on $100,000.
Yep. So if you get your rack price, they send out like your pricing sheets for the year for damn near like every single week, but
yeah,
because of how much it changes. When they send that out to you guys need to confirm that is either the after-tax rate or the pre-tax rate, because that's a huge, if you mess that up, that's 8.5% off your bottom line.
Yep.
Right off the bat.
For sure.
So
for sure,
double check on that stuff, slow down and look at it, make sure you're putting it in right. And that way, you'll be protected from the what ifs that happen.
Yep.
What's a way to, escalating costs and material shortages and shit like that? I think it's not going to go away. I think we're going to see waves of it kind of coming back. We had a situation on this job where we closed like a portfolio of jobs all at once. It was, I think, $1.1 million. Tons of asphalt, tons worth of jobs. We're doing mill and overlay on pretty much every single one of the parking lots. Right when that happened, right when we signed that, the labor shortage or the oil shortage happened here in Colorado, and the asphalt plants essentially they were limiting how many tons we could pull, but also they skyrocketed the per ton cost. I can't remember how much it was, like a $20 increase, $20.
It was insane. Like, profits on this job were already tight because we're bidding against a few other companies at the time, and they were aggressive. The hard thing about that project is, clients don't always see it, but if you relate it back over to their type of business, then they might be able to see it in a different perspective. And the way I kind of just told them was like, listen, you guys, if you guys want us back here in 2 to 3 years to be able to warranty this project, you need to make sure that we get some of this money recouped along the way. There is no way we can soak up this type of escalation. And you don't want a company out here that can't, you don't really want that. You want a company that's going to be able to come back and stand by their warranty. And if you guys expect us to take a hit like this, we're not going to be the company, nor will we take the liability on. It's tough conversations to have, but and along with that, like, I remember thinking we were only getting a couple hundred tons a day. We had this project bid for a minimum 800, 1,000 tons a day, and so like, trying to relay these things back over to a client who's not in the paving industry is like, you got to kind of just draw a tough line with some people along the way and tell them, like, this just doesn't make business sense for us to go out there for 200 tons a day. Like, we'll do it here and there, but we're not going to do an entire project this way. Like, we will make no money. We'll lose money along the way.
Absolutely.
And you can give the project to somebody else.
That's how, in companies that bite off deals like that or get put in that situation, some companies, that's a close your door kind of situation. That could knock people on their ass and into your company if you get put into bad spots or you read contracts wrong. So, like, especially for that one, we had to get a bond for it. So there's
bond,
other
liquidated damages clauses and like
nuts. Yeah.
So get a good attorney that's on speed dial too, that understands the construction industry or whatever industry you're in, to get through the fine print at times too, because we had to talk to them about it and already have a game plan. Hey, if this thing does go hard left, like, what's our move?
Yep.
And you got to know those things at the beginning, because everything's a risk. Construction. Like, it's nice, you get paid well, make a lot of money quickly when things go right. You could lose a lot of money quickly when things go wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
so
it's not a if, it's a when.
Yeah.
The severity of it varies, but give us the last golden nugget out of that brain of yours that you can leave everybody with, and we'll wrap this one up. Or give us just a recap of this.
You know what? Here's kind of what I think, and here's what's kind of been on my mind too. I think people, as you taste significance along the way, you learn the game, you'll get yourself to where you want to be, you'll taste significance. There are givers and there are takers in this life. And if you're always looking to take, you know, I think there's only one way to combat taking. And I know this because I've had moments of being a take, you know, but I've also realized the only way to combat taking is to give. So there's only one way to fill that taking, and that's to give. And it's better, and you taste way more significance by giving than you do by taking.
Yep. Don't
look for a handout. Look to hand up, help people along the way. That's always the best way to combat things. I know that's not exactly in line with what we discussed, but you know, as people are growing through their entrepreneurship, their businesses, and they start to make more money, even if you're not an owner and you're a salesman that's just killing it, remember that, like, if you're always looking to take, always looking to, you know, make more money, that is a gap that you're trying to fill somewhere. And the only way that you can really fill that is to give. It seems weird, but try tithing, try helping people out along the way, and it's just such a more rewarding feeling than it is to receive.
Absolutely. You know? That is a bomb for sure. That's a great way to end it. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't have anything else to add on top of that, bro. That was awesome. Thanks. What we want to do, questions. You know, we're going to continue to give you guys more and more of these nuggets. We got something exciting that we're working on here. We're going to drop it either end of March or beginning of April. And, you know, we won't give you the insights of it, but if you are a contractor, or if you're a paving contractor particularly, you're owner operator, or you do under, we'll say, like $4 million, and you're trying to scale, we got a program that we're working on that we are going to get you guys up to the level and get you to run your business and own your business, not work for your business. You guys are going to level up, and so stay tuned for that. I think we're going to keep it pretty exclusive. Only going to do like 20 companies that we're going to take. It's going to be stuff from, you know, diving into Zach's Know Your Costs playbook, his whole sheet. We're giving you guys the keys to the castle to, you know, one-on-one training sessions. We're going to do some Zoom calls with the team and many other good things. So want to make sure you guys are keeping your eyes out for that. That's coming up soon. We're very excited about it. And, you know, our whole goal, especially for SpotOnSite, is to help 1,000 small to mid-sized contractors double their revenue, double their profit, decrease the inefficiencies. So this is a perfect way to segue into that. So stay tuned for it. But this is episode 17 of the Apps and Asphalt podcast, talking about that money. Thanks, guys.